I always hear people say like, oh, I don't need a lover, I just need friends. People say, oh, I need friends, I just need my lover. But this game really goes to show how you need both. It was the romantic love that created the game, and it was my platonic best friend that made it into a company. So both were equally important. The gift all comes back to me.
Welcome to Come Talk with Aimee, the podcast where sex isn't whispered about, it's talked about out loud. I'm Aimee, your host and intimacy coach, here to spark raw, playful, and unfiltered conversations about relationships, desire, and everything in between. No shame, no scripts, just real talk about what really turns us on. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Come Talk with Aimee. Yes, we are so excited to have you here. As always, welcome and welcome. We love a welcome. Today we have a fabulous guest, Candace Johnson. Welcome, Candace.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! I am so excited, Candace, to dive in. For our listeners, Candace has created an amazing game, which we're going to talk all about, called Touchy Feely. Candace is also an intimacy coach. Candace, tell us all things Candace, Touchy Feely.
Aimee, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. You were such a joy and a light. But hi, everyone. My name is Candace Johnson. I'm the creator of Touchy Feely Intimacy Card Game, which is the mystery product in the bag, but I'm sure we'll get to that later. I created it about 4 years ago after being a television news producer for over a decade and a party girl with a press pass. So I like to say I've interviewed everybody, dated almost everybody, and slept with some form of everybody. So within that sort of experience, I've really honed in on how to have the best types of communications possible. I'm not as good with sort of throwaway conversations, but how to really get to know the person in front of me. And I wanted to create something and a really fun experience that helped us do that authentically. And so that's how Touchy Feely Intimacy Card Game was created. And then after having that game for 3 years, I realized that the issue isn't that we don't want to connect. The issue is that we don't know how to connect. And so that's where touch and talk coaching has sort of come into play, sort of reprogramming us to learn all the things that our teachers, parents, guidance counselors, and etc. never taught us because they probably didn't know. So we really just go back to the beginning of the ABCs of relationships, how to be in community with ourselves, how to extend that to the external world, and how to make sure it all culminates in satisfaction.
Yes! Give us the satisfaction. Give it to us. I mean, Hello, Candace. You and I met at an event here in New York City for sexperts. It was a very intimate group, and intimate in under 10 people, I think. And you had brought your game and we actually played it. And it was so fun too, because I got to experience some of your coaching facilitation style in that. And it's just so yummy. I was obsessed. I bought your game because I was just I'm in love with this concept, with this game. I need to have it for myself, with my people, both professionally and personally. It's so beautiful. You were talking about the mirrors behind me. For our listeners who are on audio only, I have these two beautiful pink and orange drip mirrors behind me. We love a good drip, yes. And Candace's game is pink and orange. We definitely, our backgrounds are totally on brand today and synced. I love it. So Candace, you are from Philly, right? You're a Philly native, and Philly is known for grit, passion, straight talk. Yes, give it to us. How do you bring that Philly energy into your game and into your coaching?
You know, what's really funny is most people, when they hear I'm from Philadelphia, they say, oh, you don't act like you're from Philly, or you don't seem like you're from Philly. But that typically comes from people who've never been to Philly. I think Philadelphia has this much harder reputation, but I say Philly is like the older sister to New York. New York is very loud, out there. They want you to know something is going on. Very flashy, very peacock. Philly's coolness is in, if you were meant to know, then you would know. And if you don't know, then maybe you weren't supposed to be there. And that can come off very pompous and rude and cold, but really it's about, I don't need you to be cool. And I think that that attitude is what permeates out of me, is that idea that most people who like me are people who either confident within themselves or just want wellness for all women and want that spunkiness for all women. But I see how my direct demeanor mostly only irritates people who can't fully express their own voices or would prefer oppressed women. Quite frankly, it's really what it comes down to. But I feel overall on the East Coast, we all have that sort of direct talk. It's more important for me that someone knows that I respect them or knows that I don't respect them at all. That's what's most important to me. But also it helps me, again, to pull back the layers or to see how readily available a person is willing to pull back their layers. And I think I remember saying this to you the night that I met you girls, is that I always thought I was a strong communicator. And then I realized I'm only a strong communicator for people who are well in the wellness space or seeking to be in the wellness space. Otherwise, I bother the hell out of you if you're not doing well and you're trying to pretend like you are.
Damn. Goals, everyone, goals. And I mean, like, you bring that energy into Touchy Feely, it like permeates out of it. And what's my experience is that Touchy Feely really brought me and the other people out of our heads that night and into curiosity. I'm curious, what is the boldest thing that someone's told you after playing?
You know what? I've been really blessed to hear some of the most amazing testimonies. The boldest, if I could share two. One happened a few years ago, which is how I knew I had something amazing. And one happened just this past week with a facilitation workshop that I did with 8 women. About 3 years ago, before the branding of the game was done, I sort of gave away envelopes with the cards printed on business cards, just white business cards. And I gave it to this one couple to play on their 30th wedding anniversary. And she shared with me that it was the first time that her and her husband were able to have intercourse without lubrication because she had been suffering from dryness due to menopause. But the overall environment and experience that she and her husband had had with the game, her sort of acknowledgement of the love that he has for her, and the testimony that he had given to her because of the questions that they had gotten, sort of overcome her. She was able to loosen up and get wet and wild. And I thought that was one of the most amazing things, because obviously our bodies biologically are going to go through a journey. But I think so many of us, and particularly women, have to remember that the spiritual world supersedes our bodily functions. And so when we genuinely know that we are in the safest space possible, it doesn't matter how old you are or where your body is, you can get to that next heightened level of acceptance when it comes to goodness. Goodness can be wetness. Goodness can be, just being loose, satisfied, delicious, enjoying whatever it is. And so I thought that was such a testimony. The other boldest thing I've heard, a woman got a question. Her question was quite simple. It was, name 3 romantic wishes. She's at the end of a very tumultuous wellness journey, which began when she realized that her husband had been molesting one of their daughters. And when that was revealed, he took his own life on their 10-year wedding anniversary. And so that sort of triggered what would end up being quite a long journey into wellness for her. And so as she was sharing with us some of the most horrific and obscene and scariest of stories, when she got to the end, we realized that we had really just sort of moved over into a rainbow. She shared with, now that she's been able to confront so many truths, she got to see how strong she is, how bold she is, how courageous she is, how she fights for her children over herself and the love she had for her husband. And now her romantic wishes are aimed toward being able to satisfy herself and to really be able to give all the good that she also knows she deserves in. And so from such a small question, name 3 romantic wishes, this woman was very confidently able to share things that most of us would try to bury down as dark as possible. But again, when you come over to the other side into the wellness, everything is just a testimony. And it made us all love her. My admiration for her runs so deep. And I told her at the end, you're one of the strongest women I've ever known in my entire life.
Wow. Both of those examples are like such beautiful testimonies, right? And just for the physical and the emotional. You gave us a very physical response that somebody had by diving deep into the emotional with her husband. The questions that are in here and also the approach, the feely part too that you have for each step is such a foreplay, such a foray into slippery slide goodness. This card game really it opens up so many different paths of healing and connection. Talking a little bit about the structure of Touchy Feely, I think it's so unique, like how you have it structured. So just for our listeners who may not be familiar with it, because I feel like as we talk, we may be talking to that structure. So yeah, can you break it down for us?
For the viewing audience, the bag is right here, what you see, this little felt bag. I kind of wanted it to be very reminiscent of, I don't know, growing up, we always saw those Crown Royal bags and people would always keep their change in it. So I kind of like that idea. And then the box is very friendly. And when you open it up, it's broken down into 4 levels, which will be easy to see here. Level 1 is where you begin if you don't know where to start with a person, right? So that's first date, get to know you, strangers, all the unfamiliar people in your life. And this just goes to show, what do we know about ourselves, right? So also in level 1, we can do children's education. What does a child know about romantic significance, about sensuality, about their own purpose, okay? Level 2 is compassion-based therapy, finding grace for people you are trapped on this planet with, but maybe you don't like them, right? So that would be coworkers, in-laws, exes, co-parenters, someone whom you know just inherently has a different viewpoint than you, but you want to be able to keep the peace. So once you understand why somebody is the way they are, then it's a lot easier for you to apologize away their bad behavior, quite frankly. Level 3, the closest people to you where trust isn't present. In shorter term relationships, that would probably mean that the trust has not been established, right? It's only implied. And in longer term relationships, maybe it's been breached or violated. People can only love you and hurt you. But of course, we want to create a space where we can rebuild. And then level 4, people you love and trust implicitly. This means that they don't lie to you and you don't lie to them. So I say the one magical thing about this game is not only is it a talk and touch game, that is very important, but it's also a universal play experience, meaning that within these 4 levels, you can play with anyone, but it's not about the label that you have with the person. It's about how intuitively comfortable am I with them verbally to share and then physically to share space with. And as you know, we all met each other and within an hour, we were up to level, I think 2 and 3. Like we got pretty up there.
On the cards, each level has a different erogenous zone too, right? Can you speak a little bit to the touch part of it?
The reason why it's so important to be clear about which level you're playing with is because the lower the level, the more emotionally light the questions are. And because there are also body parts, the more public the body parts are. Very friendly public areas. In level 1, you're talking about the hands, the forehead, the cheek, and the feet, right? Most of those body parts in the summertime we're all showing anyway. Up to level 4, right, where you're supposed to have a meaningful connection with that person, and you're talking about the belly, the booty, the inner thigh, and the chest. And so just pulling a level 4 question, right? Here's a level 4 one. Could you delete all personal social media for the survival of a significant relationship? And then you'll see the body parts down at the bottom, right? So that's a level 4. And then choosing a level 1 so you understand the difference. What's the quickest path to your heart? Acts of service, affection, communication, or emotional connection. So it just goes to show you the range. And of course, the body parts are there at the bottom: forehead, cheek, hands, feet. You are really wanting to be honest about how comfortable you are with your partner, because even if you're married to a person, doesn't mean that you do feel comfortable doing a level 4. Maybe you are in a position in your relationship where we should just move slow, level 1, level 2. I've heard of, I know I gave 2 examples earlier of women who gave testimonies about the game, but 2 men that I thought were really great. I'll share the less salacious one first. A husband shared with me that he was really thankful to play level 4 with his wife because it was the first time he was able to touch her belly post having a baby. She just doesn't feel fully into her body yet. And so she's unfortunately moved that shame into her bedroom and was denying her husband simple pleasures like being able to rub her lower stomach, which of course is a problem area for everyone. I don't care what your gender is. And so even though of course that's not sexual, it is a sensual and very sensitive body part, which is why it was so important to have the belly be in level 4. And on the more salacious aspect, there was a man who bought the game because he wanted to get his mistress and his wife on the same page. They did not know about each other. Yeah. And he is sick of living a dishonest life. He loves them both. It is what it is. And he figured if they can all be adults, then there's really something there to synergize. And so I wondered which level he would begin with, right? Because technically you have a level 4 relationship with both these women, but obviously these women don't have that with each other. And so my recommendation with him was to start with level 2. I just felt like that would sort of even it out. It's not quite the beginning, but it does sort of deep dive immediately into the understanding of if we're playing, then there has to be some type of piqued curiosity here.
Yes, I love that. And did you get feedback on how it went?
He's a straight man, so I didn't get a ton. I messaged him maybe a few weeks later and I said, how did it go? And he said it went really well. They loved it. I said, anything else you want to share? And he didn't respond to that. So I take that. But to give the rules on how to play, so you pick a card. Everyone else who's playing, one other person, a group of people, however you want to play, everyone else who's listening to the answer then rates that answer on a scale of 1 to 5 based on openness and vulnerability. 1 if it's a one-word answer, a thoughtless answer, a careless answer, all the way up to number 5. The answer was so well delivered, I don't have a follow-up question because I learned something. Then once you understand that rating, and I tell people, right, that rating of 5 literally means we made the connection of intimacy because there's something that you shared that I am now bonded to. So then we move to this card here, our emotional conversion card, and that emotional rating of 1 through 5 turns into a touch. So 1 meaning you barely tried to answer is caress, you can barely touch me, all the way down to 5, improvise. You answered so well, you can touch however you think is most appropriate, right, to the environment and the relationship. And then that's when you go back to the body parts at the bottom and you decide together, however you want to decide, which body part the person who answered would blank on the people who rated to the appropriation of the relationship, right? So in level 1, we always demonstrate that as a high five, a handshake, right? Since level 1 has hand involved, I tell people all the time, you touch strangers all the time. You just have to think about it. We did a speed dating recently and we saw people thumb wrestling, which I thought was brilliant. All the way up to level 5, obviously you can do whatever you want with those body parts, but we had 2 men who were doing level 3 and they got chess, right?
Okay.
And so we were all very curious and they did a chest bump. So how can you creatively, verbally share with the group in a very meaningful way? And how can you equally do that with your touch component?
Not only does it help with really showing and valuing the engagement, and then also I feel like there's an element of the consent, right? Like we're deciding together that this is how it would feel good to touch on this, specific body part. I love the creativity too that you just described. The chest bump, the thumb wrestling, fab.
Neither one of those 2 things I would have thought of. I always try to give people examples so that everyone loosens up. But the chest bump, I'd never thought of that or seen that before. That was incredible, especially because, when you're talking about straight men in America, and I'm going to say something very controversial, I genuinely believe there's no group of people in America who's more unsafe than straight American men. The reason why I say that is because I see how suspicious, uptight, and immediately uncomfortable they get at the idea of having to touch each other. Because now you're asking for there to be physical touch with no possibility of it being sexual. And that level of sort of nervousness lets me know that either one of 2 things, either the predator is there and they don't know how to identify it, or 2, they've built up this sense of masculinity in such a false space that without there being a sexual innuendo there, they don't know how to be men, which then would lean into why women are so brutalized and commoditized and abused.
Yes. Made this game heal men and allow them to get touchy-feely, normalize that, right? Like, yes.
Yeah, and for the women to speak up. I say for the men to be able to share physical connection and for women to be able to use the deepest part of their voice to say what they need to. Because you were talking about the rating system, and what's really interesting is there's a lot of self-esteem that people get out of being able to share with someone a 5. Oh my God, it's a 5. You did such a great job. But I watch how that confidence dwindles when you have to be honest and rate someone a 2 or a 1. There's so much therapy in the box. It's not just about, hey, how am I receiving what you're sharing, but also how comfortable am I critiquing you?
Yes. And I had that experience when we were playing because I was kind of hard ass, and that is not my style. And it shows kind of like I was a little proud of myself, like part of my healing, because I'm like a recovering people pleaser, right? And I want to like give everybody the praise. And so for me to like genuinely give feedback and say, I did notice some hesitation here. I feel this could have gone deeper. And I think I was, one of the more critical people that day, which is usually not my default, but the way that this was structured kind of helped me get there, which was a fun growth for me to experience.
I was really proud of you also because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's when Jordan was answering. And it's funny because I actually initially 100% agreed with you because I think her question was describe who you are right now. And essentially to sum up her answer is, I don't know, right? That's really what it came down to. And so of course, I don't know, doesn't really feel that valid, right? Especially because we're in a certain age group and we've all done a certain amount, blah, blah. But I really had to remember that 5 years ago when I took a step back from my career and I decided I want to restructure my belief system when it comes to the world we're living in, I had to let go of everything and start with, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. And so because I was able to sort of hold on to that idea, I was like, okay, I really respect the one thing that most adults can't say, which is, I actually don't know. And I'd rather say that than to BS this long thing that then just makes me look smart, but isn't necessarily authentic to the experience I'm in. So I kind of oscillated between like 100% agreeing with you, but then going, you know what though? The smartest person in the room can admit when they don't know.
Yes. And you gave that feedback too. And you rated like a 5. I think I gave it a 2 or a 3. The beautiful thing too is I agreed with you as well. It was like a not this or that. It was an and. I felt both could be true to see how the receiver of the feedback, both of those landed for that person. And I think it just taps into beauty and yumminess of different people's like viewpoints and experiences of each other. And yes, oh my God. If we haven't convinced you already, like I said, I bought this on the way home before I even got home from the event, but so good. So I'm curious, because I know you're an intimacy coach as well. Like what came first for you? The Touchy Feely game, the coaching? Did they both come together at the same time? Tell us all the goodness.
So the conception of the game wasn't even meant for it to be for you or anyone else. I created it the morning after a first date. I met this guy and the same day he asked me out. We had a 17-hour date. The next day he left for work. I wasn't working at the time because I just quit my position. And I thought, especially as a woman, I was 37, I believe at the time, right? What you know at 37 is that all things will end. And there's something very beautiful about that, right? In our greatest dream, hopefully someone will die. But if in our lesser dreams, then someone messes up in some hideous way. Like I said, people can only love you and hurt you. And so in just understanding that we had just come up from an amazing experience, I wanted to create something that bonded us, kept us in that loving air of, oh my God, all things are great, nothing bad will ever happen. And 8 hours later, Touchy Feely was created, and it was meant to fully just be a gift for he and I, something for us to play. And then we ended up breaking up before the branding of the game was done. And thank God for good girlfriends. One of my girlfriends said for about 4 months, she goes, you should turn this into a company. This is too good to just be a gift. And I told her, no. I said, oh, well, I don't want to go back to corporate America, so maybe. And then here we are. So I honestly thought that this game was going to be like McDonald's, where it's like billions and billions served after just 1 year. Unfortunately, investing in the American intimacy experience is a hard sell. I realized after having so many meetings, I had a meeting with a major hotel chain. I'll just say that. I was speaking to one gentleman. I said, well, we're meeting for me to be able to distribute the game as a hotel experience, as an in-room product by the minibar. And he said, okay, yes, of course, sit down. And I said, well, it's Touchy Feely. It's an intimacy card game. And he goes, oh, no, I can't even sell condoms in here. I can't do that. And I said, oh, do you have children? And he said, yes, I have a daughter, elementary school age. And I said, well, you can play this game with your daughter if you like. And so fortunately for me, because he was so honest verbally about saying, oh no, we can't have something like that, then I was able to dismantle him and then be able to get him to see the validity. But it's also meeting meeting after meeting of that, that's helped me to see that the reason why I can't position this game properly is because I'm not just dealing with the business side of it. I'm also having to crack open whatever the person in front of me's relationship with intimacy and pleasure is. And since most of us don't have a positive one, or even most of us have a only sexualized version of that, then I'm having to do a dual job, and that has just been grueling. So to bring in the coaching just seemed like a natural next step, which is, okay, I'm telling you and I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom, right? Which is this game here. But how do I know that your heart and your spirit are open enough and moreover safe enough to be able to fully indulge in it, which is why the coaching has been not only so necessary, but mind bending for me, because I don't live in a space where I'm unwell. I don't live in a space where I'm unsafe. And in fact, just quite the opposite. And so helping people to understand how a lot of their decisions are coming from struggling and survival mode versus thriving and shining has really helped me to just change everybody's point of view and perspective just a little bit, so that we're making decisions. You know how it is. Like when you're making a decision from safety, then it's about being satisfied and happy. When you're making a decision based off of not being safe, it's just about basically making sure it doesn't hurt any worse than it already does, right? So being able to get people to the happiness is really what we're trying to do with the coaching.
Oh my God. I want to see this game at bars. People are there to connect, right? You can go and drink at home. You could drink at your hotel, in your hotel room, in the comfy bed. But like people are out at a bar because they want to be around other people. They want to connect. I'm like, ooh, maybe I need to just have this in my go-to date bags. It's like just such a great icebreaker. Oh my God. Please, we need it in that setting so much. And I love that this was brought out of such a personal journey, and that it was like a gift for you and your partner, and now you're gifting it to all of us. And yay for that friend. We love friends that like hype each other up. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and I love the idea that it's fully community, right? Like I always hear people say like, oh, I don't need a lover, I just need friends. People say, oh, I need friends, I just need my lover. But this game really goes to show how you need both. It was the romantic love that created the game, and it was my platonic best friend that made it into a company. So both were equally important. The gift all comes back to me, because every time people play it and they share feedback, I feel less crazy because I think it's amazing.
Yes. Well, and it like helps us, because I think in this digital age, like we struggle to connect. It brings down those barriers, that awkwardness, or how do we start this? And it's not the binary like yes, no answer, right? It really opens it up. And I learned looking on your website, because you have the 4 C's, which is funny because I have on my website, I have 3 C's.
I'll start with curiosity because it's my least favorite to talk about, because I feel like curiosity is so innate in all of us, right? The idea of wonderment should just be. The idea of having to explain it, I don't have to talk about my heart beating, right? So we also grew up with that phrase, curiosity killed the cat. And so having people not be curious is how we keep them in their boxes, nice and neat, and then the system can operate on us accordingly. But just by merely asking a question is how you know you're not in a cult. I tell people that all the time. If you cannot question where you are in your life, then you are in a cult, period. And that comes from a girl. I grew up in 2 religions. My mom's family is Jehovah's Witness. My dad's family is Baptist. I was required to go to both growing up. I want to say around 12 years old, that Joan Osborne song came out, What If God Was One of Us? And I remember singing, I don't know, do you know that song?
Yes.
Yes.
What if God was one of us? Yeah.
Yes. And I remember playing it in my bedroom when my dad came in and he said, turn that song off. And I said, why? He's like, because that's blasphemous. And I said, well, why would that be blasphemous? And we ended up having a conversation. What I realized is that though my dad, who was a prominent member in our church at that time, though he is a great man, if you don't take the time to question your belief system, you could be living incorrectly and feeling like pain is of life, right? So curiosity, that's why. When it comes to consent is always tied to boundaries. Consent and boundaries. But I'm never necessarily concerned with boundaries if I know I'm always empowered in my consent. I'm never worried about, oh my God, someone's crossing the line, if I know that the person's always listening to my voice, and even if the person is me. So consent is just the empowerment of understanding that my voice is the only safety tool I need at my disposal, and everyone in my wake will respect that in one way or another. So that's why that is. And because of those first two, being able to be curious enough too, and knowing that the power of my voice is enough, then I can connect to you so easily. And I am really happy to be with you. And I know that maybe our connection will bring us closer, but also our connection might be for you to stay the hell over there, and I'm going to keep my ass over here, and for us to never intertwined again.
Right.
Which is why, again, that's compassion-based therapy, which then takes us to the fourth C. Just by mere fact that I can commune with people who I disagree with greatly, who don't like me authentically, and who can do that peacefully with me, hate me peacefully, talk negatively about me peacefully, be in my presence and not want to upkick violence. That's compassion. And that's where my greatest height of self-esteem comes from. It's not how I treat people I like. That's easy. But how do I treat other people and myself on days I don't like me or you? That's where I know that I am a genuinely grounded person, because I don't need anything except myself to be grounded and at peace to know I'm well. So those are the 4 C's.
I mean, it sounds like you've mastered them so well. How do you help other people master that though? Because I love your confidence and your approach. And when people come to you and they're like, what the fuck? I'm a people pleaser. You mentioned purity culture. I'm also somebody who was in purity culture. For me, it was Mormonism. And that shit will fuck you up. Sorry. That was my experience. And of course, I love all of my family and friends who still identify in that.
I'll say for me, there's no religion greater than my satisfaction, my pleasure, and my happiness. It's true. There is no religion that is greater than my happiness, my satisfaction, and my own personal pleasure. And I tell people all the time, if you are in a religion where you are not fundamentally feeling those 3 things, then you are in the wrong religion. A lot of us are in religions because they've been force-fed to us by either our community, our parents, our political association, or even our economic situation. Back to our spirituality. If it is not serving you to be your highest self, then it is false for you.
Right.
I think that there are many, many religions out there that serve individuals correctly, but
Yes.
I have discovered that a mix of my foundational religions is what I like to call them, which was Jehovah's Witness and Baptist, mixed with my daily religious practice, which is Buddhist practice. I am my highest self. When people don't know where to start, I tell them, if you don't want to call it religion, then try Pilates and yoga. At that point, you can call it exercise, but what they both are is a practice in breathing and understanding of how much pain you are in and how much pain you can tolerate. If you're in pain, then you know you have to change something in your life. And if you can tolerate pain, then it means that you can handle rejection and still be humble, kind, compassionate. And those are things that I had to learn myself. Being a Philadelphia person and a high achieving person, I can be a bit of a sore loser. That's when my most ugly self comes out, is when I lose something. It's honestly through Pilates and through Buddhist that I've realized, oh wow, I'm really nasty when I lose. But why do I deserve not to lose?
Yeah.
Why do people not deserve to be in front of me? Why is a boy not allowed to like me? Why are people not allowed to think I'm ugly? Why can't someone think I'm stupid? Right? Like, oh wait, they are allowed to. And thank God for those negative things, because if everyone loved me, it means I am a people pleaser, and that's worse.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm leaning a lot into rejection, whether that's rejecting other people and being okay with rejecting other people. Like, I can decide to move on, whether it's a friendship, any type of relationship, and that is okay. And I can stand by that, and I don't have to feel bad. Obviously, I do it in a very kind, compassionate, and direct way. I don't have to linger longer, and that's okay. And also receiving rejection and sitting with the rejection that I receive from other people and not having to analyze it. What was it about me? I had this like perfect image of what it could be or what it was. If one person decides that they don't want to participate in that, that's okay. And I can grieve that, and I can sit with those feelings, because that's really an important part of the process. Also, being okay with rejection. It's something that I'm currently sitting with, and both in the being the rejecter and the person rejected. Like, I think there's just so much yumminess in that.
Sometimes words have power, right? So sometimes it is rejection, right? Like, I know sometimes people are willfully warding off my energy. It is full on rejection. A lot of times you can reprogram yourself to just see it as misalignment. And if a person is warding me off because because I'm quote unquote too much, then I usually can understand that because any person that's ever called me too much, I probably wasn't willing to call them not enough. So misalignment. So it's not a rejection. It's a thank God that we just weren't meant to be, which thank God I'm not now taking up space for someone who is supposed to be there for you. Because, I used to be a former people pleaser 100%, and I let people take up my time and energy, my morning prayers and all that, not realizing that they weren't for me. And now my morning prayers go to people who I know absolutely are. I know them today, I'll know them tomorrow, and I'll know them in the future until I don't. And then someone else will come in.
Nothing has to be permanent. Like, it's really like that ebb and flow, and it's just so beautiful. And then obviously there are people that are like with you throughout the journey as well. But even people who are kind of a constant in your life, what we give each other changes, right? At different seasons.
And because the rejection is so great for me now, I'll tell you that in the last 5 years, sort of reconfiguring my life, my value system, watching people sort of fall by the wayside has also made my longer term relationships so much stronger. I really know that the people in my life are genuinely there for me. And I actually said to a friend of mine who we were friends before changed my life. But when I was changing my life, it was a man. He was like, you know what? I can't be friends with you. There's just too much going on. And I respected that. And then once I got fully into my wellness and he reconnected with me, he apologized for not being able to be there for me. And then I got a chance to say to him, well, number one, you were not equipped to help me at that time. So your leaving just made sense for both of us. I didn't have to pacify him through my wellness journey.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to do whatever it is he was going to do on his end to not fully understand it. But because the friendship is authentic, now that I'm fully back into my groundedness, he was able to reconnect with what he loved about me as a friend before, still see that same version of me, but just reconfigured it. And now we have a more solid friendship built on the truth that if I ever go through something horrible, he will not be there for me, which is okay. That's okay. But I know he loves me as best as he is equipped to be able to.
Yes, I love that. There's so much power in understanding the capacity that we have for people, for ourselves in different stages. But just going back to Touchy Feely and connecting, I'm wondering if there's any cards that you secretly love watching people squirm through.
There are a couple. I'll preface the one that I actually just read that's in level 4 because everyone answers the exact same way. So it was this question. So simple, the question. Could you delete all personal social media for the survival of a significant relationship? People always answer this question so egotistically. It's always either, and both are in ego, no, I would never. Why do I have to give up my social media if I have to give up my social media because my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my lover or my whoever said so, then they're not the one for me. So I hear that. That's probably the number 1 answer I hear.
Interesting. Yeah.
The number 2 answer I hear is, of course. That's it. Of course. I always like to talk. Well, let's talk about the survival of a significant relationship. And again, this is a little bit dark, right? But human trafficking happens on the internet. A lot of our more negative self-images come from the internet. A lot of our quote unquote haters and trolls and all those things come from the internet. And so the question here could also just be for the survival of yourself. Could you delete social media? There are a lot of people who do not have a self-esteem that allows for them to be on social media. They still do it, but they are negatively impacted by it. And that's unfortunate, right? That is maybe a lot of people I've talked to, I have shared, I feel like you should delete your social media. And that sounds blasphemous to them when I say it. But there is no image that I will ever see on the internet that's going to make me feel any lower about myself. I know who I am. There's no thing that's going to make me want to cut into my body unless I choose to. Add hair, cut off hair, wear makeup, not wear makeup. Nothing influences me more than I do. So that's how I know I can handle social media. So that's one. And then the other I talk about is when people say, of course I could delete it. Well, another significant relationship is with your money and your job. So if you have a partner who wants you to cut off your social media, but your profession relies on that presence on social media. Now, where are we standing? So it's one of my favorite questions because it's really asking you based on how you read it. But if you read into it more, it's so much more delicious and offers so much more exploration, especially as we just move more and more into the digital space. People always talk what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But to me, what's more important, your self-esteem or your presence, digital presence? So that's one. And then my second one, is our relationship surviving, or could it survive having children?
Damn, that one could cut deep in a lot of different ways.
I just shared with a guy friend recently that if he were to have a baby with this particular woman that he's choosing to date right now, that it would fundamentally end our friendship. And the reason why is because he has no children and he chooses to date women with lower self-esteem, lower confidence, and that works for him because it puts him in a power position. But once this woman has his baby, she will be in power and she will ruin his life. And I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm not interested. I'm very honest about, I had a suicide attempt 5 years ago, and people always look at me and go, oh my God, that's so sad, or blah. I was like, yeah, but at least I can be honest and mine is past. There are suicidal people all over the place. They play Russian roulette with their freedom, with their money, with their relationships, with their children's health. And, you know, with him, I think that he plays it because he only knows freedom. He has a lot of money and he has a lot of women over him. And so I think he thinks dating these women is low fruit hanging, but he doesn't realize that dating a woman who doesn't have a certain level of confidence, once she does taste that power of being able to control you because of children, she's going to ruin you.
Good for you to like be able to give that feedback to your friends. Yeah.
Well, it hurt his feelings and I understood that, but I thought it was important to say, I want someone to say that to me. Hey, if you have a baby with this person, it will ruin your life and I can't be here for you with that.
Exactly.
But even like, I know you shared that you have a little baby. I don't know if any of your relationships with your friends or even your family members, how that's shifted or changed, right? Because it's such a responsibility.
100%. Definitely there were friendships that got lost by the wayside where I just didn't have the capacity or ability to get together with people. My situation was a little bit complex too, because I had was in a situation where I had already kind of isolated myself before a child too, because of my relationship. So relationships had already changed prior. A child changes so many different things, right? In general, but I also have come to my own understanding of rebuilding and reframing too, because again, growing up how I grew up, I was like, oh, okay, you give to your husband, give to your family, which yes, and that doesn't mean that you give away yourself. You need to be feeding yourself. So that's something that has shifted for me, is I'm learning how to feed myself spiritually, emotionally, physically, sexually, all of the things, so that I also have the capacity to give to others. And that has enriched relationships, and it's also tested relationships where it's been, some have not lasted or some have not stuck around for it. And also some friendships I've stepped away from because my new truth, the way that I'm leading my life, does not serve those relationships or those friendships, because that, for lack of a better word, like broken place that I was in, or how I was living in that people pleaser mode, etc., that was, relationships were used to me in being that Aimee. And so all of a sudden, when now I'm not that Aimee, those relationships didn't survive. And I've had to be okay with that. This people pleaser who wants to bring everyone together and be friends with everyone. And I've been able to be like, that's okay. Things have a time and a season, and the shifts will happen.
What you just said is the handling of rejection. Everything shifts. There is nothing that doesn't shift. Even the planet is shifting, right? It's getting hotter right now. Like, we have animals that are extinct, and there's nothing lasts forever.
Yeah. Is there like a question that you find, or that you've gotten feedback from people where they're like, oh, this is like such a good question, I've never thought to ask you that? Is there one in particular that sticks out to you?
Yes. But the greatest feedback as it pertains to couples or people who've been together in longer term relationships is, of course, the first thing I ask people when they're interested in the game is, oh, what's your relationship status? Okay, how long have you guys been together? That type of thing. And obviously in longer term relationships, I move them to level 4. But what I've started to do based on feedback from longer term relationship people is I started reframing and saying, hey, longer term relationship people should actually play level 1. Because level 1 are all the questions that you may have asked at some point, but you never follow up, and things change, answers change. So things like, name a romantic song you love and why it resonates with you. Share the truest life lesson you've learned so far. That obviously changes when you're with someone for 5 years or so. Which love languages are most and least valuable to you? This is the number 1. So it's so funny that we landed here, but most couples or most partners will know their significant other's favorite color. But to me, moreover, especially if I want to do something for you on days that you're struggling, what's a scent or smell that brings you happiness? Because now if I know, for me, it's rose. And so if I know that I'm dating Candace and she loves rose, on a hard day or on any pretty average day, if you light a bunch of rose incense in the house and then I come home to an overwhelming smell of rose, it does not matter what has happened outside of my home. I am immediately transported into a space of feeling loved, cared for. I'm happy and I'm filled with glee. And so I say, like, a favorite color is a great thing. It's a great fun fact to know about your partner. But their favorite scent or smell, with smell being the strongest sense that we have, you can take your partner on a full vacation of relaxation just based on knowing that one piece of information.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And that's the thing is, yeah, we started out at level 1, left first date, second date, first month, second month. But, 10 years in, we've changed and have those answers have changed with us too. I love that.
Yeah. It can change with the season. If I do like the smell of sunscreen, because in the summer it reminds me of going to the beach or being outside and sweating so much that I'm smelling sunscreen. But obviously in the winter, for me, it's cheesesteaks, pizza, anything fried with cheese on it.
I love it.
Garlic. That's the scent or smell that brings me happiness. But that same scent in hot weather would be nauseating to me because it would feel like it's too much. So even just quarterly checking in and saying, hey, do you still love this? It allows for us to be able to peek into curiosity and have these longer conversations. And also for me to check in with myself. Oh, wait, I do still love this. Oh, I'm not every day going, hey, what do I love? But when someone I care for is asking me, now it's requiring me to check in with myself so that I can give an authentic answer.
Yes. And what about when people are angry? Because I also feel like this could be a facilitation tool, whether it's in the coaching or with Touchy Feely, how to guide people to practice care during those angry or hurt times.
I always say that anger is not the culprit. Frustration and exhaustion, those are the culprits. Anger just means you have some pent up energy. Level 2 in the game is fully, like I said, compassion-based therapy. No matter what card you choose, and I'm just going to choose a random one here, it does lend to softening anger. Name an experience that could bring us even closer together. So that's one you can ask in anger. There's nothing wrong with being angry. I just don't want to fear you when you're angry. I don't want to feel isolated when you're angry. Name an experience that could bring us closer together, right? Another random question. Name one way I could encourage you. So I don't want to alleviate your anger. I might even be okay to support your anger. I just want to make sure I'm having it with you. One last one, and then I'll share my favorite one is, so in anger, is it more important that you are shown or told you are loved? Because how do I warm you from that anger? How do I massage you back into a more comfortable space? So all of level 2 is compassion-based therapy. So if you're in a tight space, that is the level that you want to play. But my favorite question as it pertains to anger is actually in level 3. The question is, during tumultuous times, how can we better focus on each other? Because the anger can come from anyway. Maybe I said something and now you're angry with me, but really it's a trigger from a greater thing that happened outside of our relationship.
Yes.
So in moments where I accidentally say something or choose to say something that's triggering, how can we remember that we are a team?
Yeah, it goes back to that care piece, because that's the reality is feelings and emotions happen, and it's a matter of that how do we repair? It's so funny, Touchy Feely and then Philly.
And I'm dating a guy named Phil. How crazy is that?
Oh, yes. I want to unpack this. This is amazing. Okay, so if you and Phil could drop Touchy Feely into one iconic Philly spot, where would it be played and why?
You know what? So I am going to be a little unhumble in my answer and say that I think it's in one of the most iconic spots right now. And so I want to give it a shout out. Oh. We're in a Michelin Key hotel, which is also female founded here in Philadelphia. It's called the Guild House Hotel. You can purchase the room as an in-room product. We also can do facilitation, decorate and offer you a Touchy Feely experience. I'm so proud of that partnership because intimacy is luxury, and luxury is not necessarily connected to money unless you want it to be.
Yeah.
And only unwell people feel like luxury has to be connected to a dollar. But if we do want to position the game economically with luxury, then a Michelin Key hotel is definitely the highest you can get. And the fact that it's female owned, operated, and founded is the most high I could have ever imagined, to a point where even during the time of women's suffrage, a lot of meetings were taking place at that hotel originally. So I am very, very, very proud of that.
Yes, I know where I'm staying when I come to Philly. Like, hello.
Yes. It's a gorgeous hotel. It's revolutionary. And in a time where so many people are pushing the whole support women thing, I say, listen, it really doesn't matter who created this game. It would still be the best game in the world. But if you are a company that's pushing that mantra, then this game should be supported by you. And they've really taken me in, and I can't be more thankful to them.
So on that note, what's next for Touchy Feely, Talk and Touch Therapy? Where are you going from here?
So we've done so many different types of facilitation. We talked about workshops. Obviously, we've done meetings and groups. Last year, we did a theater experience, 250 people.
Wow.
Playing Touchy Feely on the main stage. So people came in for a dinner and show, and we asked people from the audience to come up and play. We had couples play. We had plurals play. We had singles play, all with the talking and the touching. And with the singles, they came up and they answered the question. And then we said, is there anyone in the audience who wants to touch you? Like, it was really awesome. And so I'm wanting to do more larger production things than that. So the two things we're working on right now is a talk show, which I think would be fantastic. So we'll get people to come in and play. And then secondly, to do more theater experiences like that. And I'm hoping, I actually this week have a meeting with a diamond company, and I'm hoping that we can get sort of different partners that really amplify that romance. Jewelry companies, obviously different non-alcoholic and alcoholic brands. And I'm also holding some meetings later this week with cannabis companies. So to maybe do some get high, talk and touch facilitations also. Because being a part of the sober space has really helped me to see how important it is to also position this game where alcohol is not present. And so we're starting within the cannabis space. And then the goal is to be able to move into full sober events where people feel comfortable in their intimacy with absolutely no guardrails at all, with the different things that sort of help push us in that mood.
Oh, so fucking amazing. So before we end, we always like to come to completion here at Come Talk with Aimee. And so are you ready to come to completion?
Ways.
Yes, we love that. All right, Candace, question number 1, sexiest thing about being a coach?
Being able to see fully through someone and making them feel seen, heard, and accepted.
The most surprising place someone told you that they played your game?
Well, the place isn't a physical place. It was the story I shared earlier where the man bought the game strictly to be able to get into a good place with his wife and his mistress. Best thing I'd ever heard.
I love that. Okay, so question number 3. What's more dangerous, a Philly side-eye or a partner dodging communication?
Well, partner dodging communication means that they don't want you to know. Really scary. A side-eye in Philly just means I don't fuck with you. Yeah. So just move on.
So we're going with the partner, definitely, yeah.
Partner dodging communication can't be with someone who doesn't want you to know them.
100% agree. All right, when was the last time a card made you blush?
Actually, and I'm not one to be shy or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not one to blush either. We did a theater experience, and this very shy couple came up to do a card, and they did a level 3 card. The guy answered the question, and then of course the audience rated and gave him a 5, and so he could do whatever he wanted. And his chosen action was to bend his girlfriend over on stage and grind on her butt. And it was the most amazing thing. 250 people jumping up and down, screaming and laughing and applauding them. But for me, I wasn't ready for that. It was just so hypersexual, and I was like, and it wasn't until I watched the video back and I went, oh, look at me. I was like clutching my pearls. It was beautiful. It just, they went from being very timid to very comfortable really quickly.
That's amazing. I love that. First date, talk or touch?
Both.
Yes. And I mean, this came out of a first date. Like, this is a product of an amazing, 17-hour first date?
Yeah, 17 hours. Yeah. Very long date.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, last question. One Touchy Feely card every listener should play tonight.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, I would have normally said which scent or smell brings you happiness, but we already did that one. So I would say if I'm giving one, Oh, one of my favorite cards. If this were our last day together, how would we spend it? And that's for anyone. Ask your child that. You have a baby, ask, if this were our last day here, how would we spend it? And people go, oh, it's so morbid. But tomorrow's not promised. It's not saying why we're not going to be together tomorrow. It's just saying that in this moment where we have full power of the day, what are we doing? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. On that note, Touchy Feely brings us all together, opens those conversations, those dialogues. Candace, also, your approach is so amazing. Like, it's just so beautiful. Where can people find you?
So the game can be found at touchyfeelygame.com. And then we're Touchy Feely Game on all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all those fun places. I tell people, if you don't necessarily know if you want the game, then there's a variety of different experiences that we post of people playing. And it's either a fun game or it's a therapy tool. So if you buy it in an upswing, then it's a fun game. If you wait until your therapist prescribes it to you, then it probably means that you're in the lower part. But either way, it brings you back to the high. So whatever you need.
Yeah, and you can play this with yourself too. Like, I'm going to take a card and journal. Why not?
And we do that with our corporate wellness. We do an oxygen bar. We give people a card and we have them journal their answers in silence.
I love it. Candace, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our listeners for listening in. We love you. Please let us know where you think you're going to be playing Touchy Feely, who you're going to be playing it with, and all of the things. And remember to like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your frenemies, tell your grandma. We are here for all of it.
That's all for today, lover. Remember to masturbate, lubricate, and get ate. If you liked this episode, share with a friend, like, subscribe, and as always, thank you for coming. Please come again, and come again.